In Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker has signed a sweeping bill designed to shield undocumented immigrants from deportation, escalating a conflict with the federal government's immigration enforcement policies. The new law, known as HB 1312, establishes new safeguards at sensitive locations like courthouses, hospitals, daycare centers, and university campuses, aiming to limit the reach of civil immigration agents. Under the measure, individuals will now have the right to sue law enforcement officers if they believe their constitutional rights were violated during an immigration-related action. The law specifically prohibits civil arrests in and around courthouses for those attending state proceedings. It also strengthens privacy rules at hospitals, requiring them to create clear policies for any interactions with law enforcement. Furthermore, universities and daycare centers will be restricted from sharing a person's immigration status unless explicitly required by federal law, and they must develop protocols for handling federal agents by early 2026. Governor Pritzker stated that Illinois is choosing solidarity and support in the face of what he called cruelty and intimidation. The move drew a sharp rebuke from the Trump administration. A White House spokeswoman accused Pritzker of defending criminal illegal aliens instead of focusing on crime in his state. The Department of Homeland Security was even more direct, with an official stating that the Illinois law violates the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution, which establishes federal laws as the supreme law of the land. This state-level action comes as the Trump administration continues its aggressive immigration enforcement, with the president recently stating that ICE raids haven't gone far enough in his mission to deport what he estimates could be up to 25 million people. This clash between state and federal authority is also playing out in the courts over a contentious military policy. A divided federal appeals court has given the Pentagon a green light to temporarily reinstate its ban on transgender military service. The 2-to-1 ruling from the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals puts a hold on a lower court's injunction, allowing the Trump administration to enforce the restrictions while the underlying legal challenges continue. The majority opinion, written by Judges Gregory Katsas and Naomi Rao, argued that the district court had improperly substituted its own judgment for that of Pentagon leadership. They wrote that the military enforces strict medical standards to ensure fitness and that the 2025 policy, which generally bars individuals with gender dysphoria from serving, advances the important military interests of combat readiness, unit cohesion, and cost control. The White House hailed the decision as a great win that prioritizes military readiness over social ideology. However, the ruling drew a sharp dissent from Judge Patricia Millett-Pillard. She argued that the administration had provided no evidence that the new policy was based on any legitimate assessment of military necessity. Judge Pillard wrote that the policy reflected animus from the start, pointing to a presidential executive order that declared adopting a gender identity inconsistent with one's sex conflicts with a soldier's commitment to an honorable and disciplined lifestyle. The policy on transgender service has shifted repeatedly over the past decade, with the latest version being reinstated by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth this year. The case will now return to the district court for full consideration, with a potential Supreme Court review on the horizon. While the courts debate personnel policy, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are grappling with the military's massive annual budget. The House Rules Committee has advanced the nearly $900 billion National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, setting it up for a full vote in the House. However, the bill's path forward is uncertain due to a looming rebellion from a small but crucial group of conservative Republicans. The legislation, which dictates spending for America's national defense, survived its committee hurdle on a party line vote. The next step is a procedural vote on the House floor to begin debate, and with a razor-thin majority, Speaker Mike Johnson can only afford to lose 2 Republican votes. At least 5 conservatives have expressed they are either undecided or planning to vote no on this procedural step. Their primary frustration stems from what was left out of the 3,000-page bill during closed-door negotiations. They are angry that the final text excludes a provision to ban a potential central bank digital currency, which they argue could be used for government surveillance. They also note the absence of anti-abortion language. One frustrated lawmaker, Representative Greg Steube of Florida, criticized the process, saying conservatives are being told to just eat it or vote against a pay raise for military service members. Despite the internal friction, the vast majority of House Republicans support the bill, which codifies parts of the Trump agenda, ramps up capabilities against China, and provides a pay increase for troops. If the procedural vote fails, leaders may have to use a different process that would require a 2/3 majority for final passage, needing significant Democratic support. The internal party divisions on display over the defense bill come as President Trump sees a rise in support from his own party, according to a new poll. A Reuters Ipsos survey released Tuesday shows the president's overall approval rating has climbed to 41%, up from 38% in mid-November. The increase appears to be fueled by a significant jump in support among Republicans for his handling of the economy and the cost of living. Approval on that specific issue rose 5 points overall to 31%, but it surged by 10 points among Republican voters. This comes just hours before the president is scheduled to deliver a major address on affordability in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. While combating high prices has been one of Trump's weaker polling issues, his recent focus on scaling back some tariffs and pledging to lower food prices seems to be resonating with his base. However, the poll also indicates that 3/4 of all respondents still view the economy negatively. Democrats, meanwhile, are energized after recent election victories where they successfully hammered Republicans on the issue of affordability as inflation remains elevated. The latest report from the Labor Department showed a 3% increase from a year earlier, a slight uptick from the previous month. While the president's national numbers show some improvement, his endorsement did not carry the day in a key local election in Florida. In Miami, Democrat Eileen Higgins has won the city's mayoral runoff election, defeating the Trump-backed Republican candidate Emilio Gonzalez. The victory is a major breakthrough for Democrats, ending a nearly 30-year losing streak in the city's top office. Although the race was officially nonpartisan, it attracted significant national attention and resources from both major parties. President Trump endorsed Gonzalez on social media over the weekend, calling it a big and important race. But Democrats, buoyed by recent wins in other special elections, were determined to score an upset. The Democratic National Committee invested heavily in the race, with its chair saying the party was all in for Higgins. The result is notable in a state that has shifted dramatically to the right in recent years. While President Trump won Florida by 13 points in last year's election, he narrowly lost the city of Miami itself, highlighting a rare blue oasis in the Sunshine State. Higgins, a former county commissioner, centered her campaign on the issue of affordability and making local government more efficient. Gonzalez, a former city manager, focused on fighting overdevelopment. Higgins will now succeed the term-limited Republican Mayor Francis Suarez,